You're listening to the Deep Purple Podcast, a fan podcast about one of the most legendary bands of all time, Deep Purple. We take a look at the music, history, and people behind the band Deep Purple and beyond.
Welcome to the Deep Purple Podcast, the first and only podcast devoted to one of the greatest bands in rock history, Deep Purple. Today's episode is episode number 119, Trapeze. And coming to you from the trapezing suburbs of Chicago, I'm your host, Nathan Beaudry.
And coming to you from the suburbs of Providence, I'm your co-host, John Fed Hill Matola. Did I use that one yet?
No, I don't think so. Fed Hill.
Okay.
That one I get. Why don't you explain the background behind Fed Hill?
Well, Fed Hill used to be Providence's Little Italy.
Mm-hmm. It's not anymore. I've been from Rhode Island for about 20 years, so
yeah, it's in decline. Yeah, it's like vape shops and
Rhode Island's in decline.
Yeah, it's like vape shops and clubs for douchebags and
it was always kind of clubs for douchebags. But...
I mean, there are still some places on there. I only said that because I had a 4-hour lunch with my family today at one of the staples up there, Il Massimo.
Oh, very nice.
Which is if anybody is up here, it's where the Mediterraneo used to be.
Oh, Mediterranean. So, that's where. Oh,
yep. Okay. So yeah, beautiful restaurant. My mother's birthday was yesterday. My
happy
brother
birthday,
and
Tony.
Yeah, happy birthday, Mom.
A wonderful woman who, on the first time one of the first, if not the first time I ever met her, I was like, "Hi, I'm Nate." She's like, "Call me Mom." Okay.
Yes, very welcoming.
Yeah, we're more familiar than with my own mom. My own mom would be like, "Hey, we need to get to know each other first." I'm like, "But I'm your son."
Yeah, she loves it. She loved my friends. Still does. Yeah, it was her birthday yesterday. And it was oppressively hot and humid here. So, my brother and his family came in a few days early, surprised all of us.
Yeah, that's great.
And so they took a day or so to get over the jet lag. They dropped the kids off at my sister-in-law's parents, and all the grown-ups went out to lunch where my mom loves to go there. And we nobody really had anywhere to go, so we just kind of went next level crazy with having appetizers, drinks, dessert, cappuccino, espresso. Sorry. By the time we were done, my dad was telling stories about the old days and cracking all of us up, including the waitress. So
I bet.
Oh, he had a couple of good ones. So my favorite actually was a recent one, because I was telling him about, and it's a short one, where I had a car horror story. The place where I was taking it just is in decline as far as I'm concerned, so I don't want to take it there anymore. And he's just like, yeah, I had a recall on something on my car. And so I went in and they said, so do you want a loaner? And he said, how long is it going to be? They're like, 3-4 hours. So he goes, okay, so I'm signing this, insurance, that. He goes, I got home. I sat out on the deck, opened up a book. 5 minutes later, they called me and they're like, your car's ready. What did he need a loaner for? He could have just waited with it. Yeah. So it's funnier when he told it, and then he kept adding to it. He was just like, he already told the story, and then he was adding more details, and it was still funny, probably because it was him telling it. After 2 bottles of wine.
Yeah, that increases engagement.
But yeah, there are still some really quality Italian restaurants up there. It's just not like a main drag of
It was like the downtown is more like the restaurant scene now. I mean, it was.
Yeah, I mean it's spotty up there, but if Providence, it has its kind of pockets of you have so the east side, you have downtown, you have Federal Hill, just different streets and areas. There's good restaurants all over the place, but Federal Hill as a whole would be like all Italian restaurants and or like predominantly, and now it's not as much anymore, but that's kind of the way it goes.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you guys got to have a good time. It was good seeing pictures that you posted of the event. So he came in and surprised you, and then said,
Yep.
"Don't tell mom and dad," and then surprised them again.
Right. They were like, he was texting me at like 10 in the morning. So I mean, over there is like 4:00 in Italy. So he's like, "What are you doing for mom's birthday?" Thought he was just checking in, and I'm like, "Oh, this, that, the other. It's probably too hot to sit outside today. So if she wants to wait, whatever. I'll probably just go over." He goes, "So we're sending a gift. What's your address again? We're going to send it to your house so she doesn't get it." I sent him my address because he doesn't remember anything. And he's like, "All right."
He needed the address because he needed to know where to go.
Exactly. And so I sent him the address, and he goes, "All right." He goes, "Well, it should be there in like a half hour or something because it's like a wine delivery." They did the same thing for my birthday, a few months back, like a drizzly delivery.
Yep.
Of wines, So I'm like, all right. So I bought it. The thing buzzes. My doorbell buzzes. I'm like, all right. And I go down and walk down there, and there's just like all of them standing at the front door, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" What? Like I didn't even know what to do, And so I invited them up after I was like, my shock was over, and said, "When did you get here?" and everything. I guess a friend picked him up. They went to my sister-in-law's parents' house, surprised her the same way. So my parents had no idea. So we conspired together to go over there, and of course he set the stage by like, sending some stuff to my mom before I went over, saying like, "Oh, we might get delayed. We're having a problem with our passport." So she was like
really
bummed.
laying it out.
Oh yeah, she was bummed out when I walked in there. She was just like, "Oh God, did you hear?" Like, yeah, here, let's sit down, let's have some lunch. I, brought some pizza and calzones and whatever. And then I was like, "Hey, wait a minute, I hear something at the door." And then they came walking in, and that was, everything that you saw in the video that I posted on my Facebook. Nice. So she was shocked. I was just like, I actually think that like, I'm afraid for like my mom having like a literal heart attack because all she does is like worry and like obsess and like, about them and their grandkids and everything. So I'm like, oh my goodness. Like I seriously hope she doesn't have a stroke when she sees you guys, but she was really, really happy. So great surprise for all of us and great to have a few extra days with them. So
that's awesome. How long are they staying for?
About 6 weeks. Oh, so that'll be great.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, welcome to this episode of the Deep Purple Podcast. And first of all, we want to kick it off like we always do. If you want to support the show, you can do so a number of ways. One is leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. 2, buy some merchandise at our Etsy store. That's mugs and t-shirts. 3, and our favorite, become a patron on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Support the show. Help us buy new albums, do research, get new recording devices that John is using right now. We're testing out, finally, sort of testing out properly so we can streamline our process here. And you can also use PayPal if you'd like. So we're going to kick it off by thanking our executive level patrons at the $20 Shades of Deep Pockets tier. We have Ryan M. At the $15 Highball Shooter tier, Alan Ain't Too Proud to Beg. At the Turn It Up to $11 tier, Frank Thielgard Mortensen, Clay Wambacher, and Mikkel Steen. And at the $10 Someone Came tier, Steve Seaborg of NameOnAnything.com and AllTheWorldToStage.net, Jeff Bryce, Gerald Kelly, and Victor Campos. Thank you to all of you for your continued and generous support of the Deep Purple Podcast. All right. Didn't check the Apple podcast reviews this week, but that's good because our good friend and patron Mark Hodgetts sent me a copy of his book. This book is called Postcards from Hell, Notes from a Purple Mind. And if you look a quick look through the table of contents, which I kind of viewed online, every chapter is named after a Deep Purple song. So you've got Speed King intro, Child in Time, When a Blind Man Cries, Contact Lost. And enclosed with this book was firstly a very nice little letter that's stuck to something. It says, "Hi Nate, please find enclosed my book along with some press clippings, including a review of the Total Abandon show. Ritchie who? The book itself is an exploration of my journey through depression and uses Deep Purple as a reference point. Cheers, Mark." So looking forward to that. Just came in yesterday. So I got it yesterday night. So looking forward to looking through it. Very interesting. Just for the fun of it. Hungry days. So cool stuff. I'll put a link to the show notes of where you can purchase that book if you'd like. So he had that. And then in this package was all this stuff, including a ticket stub seeing Deep Purple live in concert March 2001 in Melbourne Park. Did I say that right, Mark?
Wow.
Melbourne Park, Australia. There's an article called "Smoke on the Yarra." Bunch of clippings. Deep Waters Run Still. Little article. So probably from local papers. But thank you so much, Mark, for sharing this. The horoscopes. But I think it's what's on the other side that he's sending me, which is the In the Purple. Nice picture of Ian Gillan belting it out. It's actually kind of interesting just seeing what's on the other side of these clippings, like a man wearing a pig nose. This one, it's called "Sticky Carpet." The local scene with Patrick Donovan. And here is the Ritchie who that he referenced in the letter. Ritchie who? Deep Purple still smoking. Ritchie Blackmore's backing band performed at Melbourne Park on Tuesday. Point is, who needs him? Not this outfit. Deep Purple have had more arrivals and departures than Spencer Street Station. So it goes on to kind of review the show, a glowing review, it sounds like, of them playing. And then once the world's loudest band, they now sit in a quiet restaurant. Another article right there. So some really cool clippings, given that they're from
Nice.
likely from Australian publications, definitely ones I haven't seen before. So thank you so much. I'm going to keep these in a safe spot and check out that book maybe after we record tonight. So thank you, Mark. Really appreciate that. Okay, so this is it, folks. This is what we've been teasing for a while. This is the premiere debut album from Trapeze. And we've talked about
Here's where my fun ends.
We've been kind of joking
I just talked about all my good times. Here's where it ends.
Yeah, I hope you saved some of the wine. But we've been talking about this for a while, because this is an album that, started off Trapeze, but that we both kind of remember as just being like a little underwhelming. John, what's your history? What do you remember from this album?
I remember getting this. You know what? I can't remember if I got this first or after the other ones. I seem to remember like Medusa being like the first one. That's like the one you had to get. I mean, at that, at the point where we were collecting these albums, I mean, I just got them at the rate of like, when they were available. It's not like I could pick and choose, but I'm pretty sure it was like Medusa first, and I had probably gotten this one last, because if I had heard this one first, like I probably wouldn't have been, motivated to buy the other ones, just because it's such a departure from the sound that they evolved into, because it was very, and I mean, like disclosure too, is like, I haven't heard this in a while, but I just remember being very hippy dippy, very like prog rock, very like, echoey, like, nothing like what, Hughes was doing like in Trapeze or beyond, like nowhere near funky, nowhere near rock. So it's like I just remember it wasn't like not really enjoying it, just kind of being like, well, I'm never listening to this one. So and I don't, out of their 3 early albums, like I never listened to this one. So
yeah, I think we talked about it.
Not saying it's like horrible, but
well, we'll see.
We'll see.
I think we talked about this last week, but I much like you, I would imagine that I didn't get this one first, because I don't think I would have explored the rest of their catalog had I. Again, like I said last week, Haven't really listened to this in probably 25 years. So going into it pretty fresh, gonna have an open mind, listen to it. But I would imagine, but my memory of it is much like the memory of the first 3 Deep Purple albums, to be honest with you, which is,
Mm.
I listened to them a few times. There are a few little things that I really liked, but actually before doing the show, I hadn't listened to them in at least 20 years. And um, going back and digging into them, still, I listen to the third one every so often, but the first 2, I mean, outside of the show, I wouldn't really pay much attention to them because I don't enjoy them the way that I enjoy pretty much everything else by Deep Purple. Um, so uh, I would say a similar thing with this. This is my original CD that I got, but like everything we would have done at the time, I would have see a little glare there, but I would have heard something for Trapeze or just really loved Glenn Hughes and said, that's it, I gotta get everything from Trapeze with Glenn Hughes. And immediately, I might have even bought all 3 of them at the same time, but didn't come back to this. But at any rate, I got all of them, and then this one just never really stuck. So that's my original one from 1994 is when this one was released, and I would have gotten it right about then, probably right when it was re-released. Then recently, within the last year, they re-released all the original Trapeze albums as multi-disc sets, and they released this one. Which, again, it's a two disc. It's actually really great. Got great liner notes. It's got live stuff, BBC sessions. So it's really, really cool, and a great collector's item. So I'd highly recommend getting those for any Trapeze fans, at least Medusa and You're the Music. So that is my background with this album. And again, maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised today, but I remember it as being just kind of psychedelic, hippy dippy stuff. And as we'll talk about later, the funny thing is this came out 6 months before Medusa. Completely different lineup, completely
That's
different
wild.
sound. I mean, it sounds like they're on different planets. So that to me is kind of a staggering fact. So anyway, that's kind of the history of this album, or our histories with this album, which are fairly brief. Looking at the notes here, so Trapeze was formed, and we talked about this a little bit. I forget what episode, but we have an episode on Glenn Hughes talking about his background before he came into the band. So we probably touched on a little bit there, and a little bit on our Medusa episode. But Trapeze was the merging of 2 bands. Terry Rowley and John Jones were in a band called the Montanas. Glenn Hughes, Mel Galley, and Dave Holland were in a band called Finders Keepers. According to Johnny Jones in 1969, he and Terry Rowley were taking the train into London. They discussed forming a new band and talked about all the people they'd like to play with. Terry had worked with Holland before, really loved his drumming. And he said this was on a Friday, and that by Monday, the original 5-piece of Trapeze was together. Hughes says that Terry was very well educated musically, and he wanted to have strings and orchestrations involved. They were all very interested in what the Beatles were doing and wanted to do kind of stuff like that. And I think that might have been maybe the Beatles kind of ruined a lot of the late 60s bands, because everybody wanted to be the Beatles, but nobody pulled it off. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to say nobody, but there a lot of people heard the things that the Beatles were doing and like, oh, we want to do that too. But what they didn't have is the members of the Beatles and George Martin producing and writing the arrangements and stuff. So you get a lot of this kind of, I don't even want to call it copycat, but kind of trying to play Beatles and having it not work out. So that's one theory for why I think the bands in the late 60s and early 70s that were really successful or that really made an impact were the bands that were striking out and trying to do something that was all their own. The reason why we love Medusa and don't really care for this album as much. So in the liner notes on this one, Jones says that they were really into Yes at the time. That must have been very early Yes. Don't know much about Yes. Malcolm Dome in the liner note says the band name Trapeze was suggested by Rowley and immediately gave them a sense of sophistication, which was highly appropriate when you consider what the debut album sounds like. I thought that was funny. Like Oh, we want to sound sophisticated. What should we call? How about trapeze? Oh, yes, very sophisticated. Like, what's sophisticated about trapeze? Like, oh, you know what the most
I don't
sophisticated thing
know.
is? The man on the flying trapeze. So sophisticated. I'm like, I don't know why I'm doing like
I
a
mean,
mock
maybe.
thing, but
They could have said like, do you want to sound sophisticated? How about cigarette holder?
how about
Or we
monocle?
call it br- brandy snifter,
Oh, that would be good. Snifter, actually, that would have been not a bad name
right?
for a band. Snifter.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess if you kind of say it like that, like the man on the flying trapeze, like that, it's like, all right, yeah, it sounds kind of like has a kind of a ring to it. I don't know.
If I think of
It's still a cool name.
sophistication, I don't think of like circus events.
That's true. It's like,
Like,
yes,
oh,
we
it's
will
so
call this
sophisticated.
shitting elephant. The name of the band will be Shitting Elephant. Or Whipping the Lion.
I mean, it's impressive, like the flying trapeze and everything, but like it just doesn't seem like it's like sophisticated. I don't know, it's not the word that I would use. Anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves here.
Caviar, Grey Poupon.
Grey Poupon. Was Grey Poupon around back then? That would have been a good
Grey
name.
Poupon. We could call this band Grey Poupon. We could call it Dijon Mustard. Starring Glenn Hughes.
So Jones said he originally suggested the name Trapezium because he knew of a folk band called Pentangle. I have no idea what that has to do. Maybe it's just kind of, maybe it's like okay, pentangle. Okay. It's like kind of a combination of like two words or suffixes. So maybe he thought the same thing with trapezium. It's like, I don't know. So Terry suggested they short it to trapeze. Maybe a good idea. Although trapezium's not bad. So according to Hughes, they came close to signing with Apple Music, the Beatles label, and he talks about this a bit in their book, and then it just kind of like it fell through. It just kind of fizzled out, never came to fruition. How much of that is maybe the talks weren't as serious as they are leading everyone on? How much of it is the fact that the Apple organization was just a complete mess and was probably disintegrating at that point? So who knows? But at any rate, they didn't sign with Apple. Instead, and I think we talked about this years ago on our first Glenn Hughes episode. So instead of the Beatles, it ended up being the Moody Blues, as we talked about before. John Lodge ends up producing their album, the Moody Blues bassist. And like many albums at this time, they didn't have any time for pre-production. They had all the songs written. They just ran into the studio and just had to kind of bang it out. Hughes says that he believes Lodge had never produced anything before this album. And as we saw on our Medusa album, we thought the production on that album was incredible, especially for someone who's not really known as a huge producer. We thought it sounded great. So we'll hear what he sounds like 6 months earlier. I can't imagine it's too wildly different, but I seem to remember, and maybe it's more to do with the style of the music, but I seem to remember this album just sounding extremely dated, whereas Medusa sounds, I mean, still it's 51 years old, but it sound more like kind of that.
Sounds fresh.
We constantly compared it to Sabbath, right? It has that kind of Sabbath riffy kind of rock sound. This was a little bit along the lines of hippy dippy sort of stuff, or Moody Blues, to be honest, which would make perfect sense. So that's the background. The players. We've got obviously Glenn Hughes, who plays bass, guitar, piano, and trombone on this album, as well as lead vocals. We have Dave Holland on drums. We have Mel Galley on lead guitar and some bass. We have Terry Rowley doing organ, guitar, piano, and flute. He left after this album. He'd returned to the band, not as like a main member, but as kind of recording some stuff with them in 1974. And then trumpet, John Jones, who went on to work with Ray Thomas. So it's kind of an interesting lineup to have a guitarist, drummer, bass player, singer, and then somebody playing trumpet. It's kind of like a band like Cake or something, just randomly as a trumpet player. And then there's like the organ, flute, all other sorts of stuff. So kind of gives you an idea of what we're in for when we listen to this. So on the technical side, obviously we talked about John Lodge of the Moody Blues producing. We've got engineers, Bill Price, who worked with Mott the Hoople, Pete Townsend, and The Clash, Chris Neal, who only had a few other credits in the 70s, John Punter, who worked with Roxy Music, Mr. Big, not that Mr. Big, but the Mr. Big from the 70s, and Martin Ford, our friend of the show, Martin Ford. It's funny, Mr. Big is a band from like back then, but also there's another band, Dr. Feelgood, back then, just roaming around, but it's not the same band, obviously. And then Roger Quested, I might be pronouncing that incorrectly, but he continued to work a little bit with Trapeze, and he also did worked with Pink Floyd on the Metal album and Cat Stevens. So some pretty good heavy hitters there with the production. All right, and now that takes us on to the album artwork. John, what say you about the album artwork for Trapeze? I think you said it last week's episode. I think you said something about it.
What did I say? I forgot.
You said even the cover makes me bored.
I'm hilarious. You know what? It's just like when I see this cover, it's like, I mean, yeah, it's definitely artistic. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, if you're looking at it, it's looks like a couple of women like running through the jungle, covering themselves from a thunderstorm. But the way that they look, like especially the one in the foreground, kind of looks like statuesque. You know what I mean? It looks like this album cover, because of the black and white tones and like the woman in the front, always made me think of like statues in a museum. Or statues like in a European country or something like that. Like it was very like, I think that's why I said that. It's like, it makes me bored, because if you think like, I mean, when I think of like things that are boring is like, oh, going to a museum and looking at, I mean, not all the time, but you know what I mean? It's just kind of that old, cliche of just like, all these boring old statues and stuff. And that's just kind of what it looked like. It was like, upon like a quick look, it's just kind of very nondescript, very old fashioned looking, very kind of like, you know what I mean? You don't look at it and be like, oh boy, like I think like, great music or metal music is in here, or like hard rock or whatever. I wouldn't even know what would be in this album looking at this, but objectively speaking, it is actually a cool album cover. Taking a closer look at it, I mean, it is, it's an illustration, right?
Oh, yeah, or a painting of some sort.
Or a painting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely well done. I mean, if you look at like the creases and the flowing motion of like the dress on the girl in the foreground, and like the thing that they're kind of like holding up, front of them or behind them rather, and like, the contrast between light and dark. Definitely a cool album cover.
I think it's actually, I think it's a man on the left hand side, and I think he's holding up his shirt.
Is it?
Something. Yeah, because look at his chest.
It looks like
you can see kind of like his like pecs.
Okay, maybe it's because of the lips, and like the kind of the curly hair. It almost looks like a woman, but
yeah, if you look at just his face, it's definitely I guess very feminine looking, but like it looks like it's probably a man, and he's holding up his shirt so that
but you know what?
Wet from the rain or something.
Oh, and you know what? If you look closer, like, if it probably is a man, because his hand is like around her waist, like he's like kind of scooping her up, or like, protecting her or guiding her in a certain way that they're, running, or that they're running away from the storm. So I don't know if I would say it's a cool album cover, but it's definitely a cool work of art.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's wearing like.
So I don't have a problem with
she's got this very flowing dress on. It looks like a like a goddess almost, like a Greek statue or something with a flowing.
Exactly. Yeah, it looks like a Greek statue type of thing. Yeah, that's what it makes me think of.
I always, to me, it reminded me of the third Deep Purple album cover, which is just again a black and white photo of some other art, and I always assumed this was I don't even know like what era, because I know nothing about art, but like some sort of painting from the 1700s or 1800s or something. But on looking at I tried to do a little research, and maybe if you're listening and you have more information, you can let us know. But it simply says front cover reproduced by kind permission of the Victoria and Albert Museum. So I don't know, but it doesn't say who did it, like what the art is from. I did a few like little searches. I admittedly didn't scour the internet to try to find out, but I couldn't really figure out. And that's what it says on the back of the CD as well. I couldn't figure out exactly maybe who painted this. Maybe it was something more recent. Could have been something from the 1800s. Who knows? But yeah, to me it always seemed kind of like a cop out, like, oh, let's just grab like an old painting and use that as our album cover. Something that occurred to me just recently was like just actually yesterday getting ready for the show. It looks to me like when you take a picture with your phone in portrait instead of landscape, and then they like, oh crap, and then they're like, oh, it's not a square now, just put it on a black background, and because it's a very narrow sort of painting, and that was always kind of weird to me. So they have these black strips on both sides, and on the right hand side they just have in like a sort of a script-ish font that just says Trapeze. So, or like if you sometimes like you see videos like on the news, they put like, because somebody filmed it like that, they'll put it on the news, but then they'll have side panels that are like a bigger picture of the video all blurry. So that's what it kind of reminds me of, but something obviously that neither of us would have connected with in the early 90s. When you open it up, at least I'm not sure about the album, but okay, let's look at the back cover first. Back cover, just the 5 heads of these guys. Look at these guys. Glenn Hughes looks like 15 years older than he is. he looks like he's easily 35 years old here, and he was like 18 or something. Just a really kind of funny picture. And
it almost looks like without the guy in the bottom there who kind of looks like a scruffy Roger Glover, almost. It almost looks like it's trying to be like the is it Meet the Beatles?
Oh yeah, yeah, it does. They just had one extra.
I feel like a lot of people like do that, like, or were doing that kind of thing where they were doing like the disembodied heads type thing with the black shirts on. That was even how Kiss kind of did their first album cover.
Yep.
A Meet the Beatles-esque type of thing. The 4 heads.
Yeah, it's been done a million times, right? And here they are doing it. The record itself, pretty uneventful, just Threshold. It's got the track listing for both sides. And then on the inside here, and now this is, I guess this must have been a gatefold. I don't have the LP, so I'm not sure. It must have been a gatefold. So it's on one side, it's got side 1, side 2. On the other side, it's just got produced by John Lodge and a few little credits. Now, interestingly, if you look at this side here, and it's similar on the CD version, except they kind of put the heads of the guys in there too. It says, it's like a little poem. It says, time is too slow for those who wait, too swift for those who fear, too long for those who grieve, too short for those who rejoice, but for some who love, time is eternity. So you think, oh, okay. I mean, that's like, it must be, maybe it's one of the lyrics from their song or whatever. No. If you look at the back of the album, it says, verse reproduced by kind permission of Hallmark Cards Incorporated. It's not weird.
I mean, I already feel like with the with the painting on the front and on the poem and all the black and white and the very nondescript thing, I think this is like this album cover is already packaged to try and make them like, just like look really like poetic and self-important and like, like artistic and, position themselves to be like real, like, artistes, and that's like, what's the word?
Like, artsy fartsy?
Yeah, artsy fartsy. I was going to say, what's the word? Not presumptuous, pretentious.
Yes. Yeah.
It already feels really pretentious, like, we're high art on the front and like a Hallmark card on the back.
which is just kind of like which just kind of totally ruins it. Like if they had just written
And
something else just equally as banal as that and put it on there as their own, you'd
yeah,
be like, okay, cool, I see what they're going. Because Deep Purple, which album was it? Was it Book of Taliesin? Had some sort of like nonsense like that on the back of the album where it was like this little poem on the back, and you're just like, it's kind of lame, but whatever, I get it. It was 1968, 69, whatever.
yeah.
That's just what you did. Like it wasn't
Mhm.
like you can't and I think a lot of what we'll discover when we get into this album is you can't fault them for 90% of this, because it's just like that was normal back then. Things
That
that
was the
seem
time.
things
Yeah.
that were going on back then 50 some years later have the ability to sound much more cheesy. That being said, 6 months later they'd release an album that still holds up really well and didn't seem pretentious. So there you go.
Right.
So that's the album art. Kind of some interesting interesting little stuff about that album. And yeah, that's all we got on this album before we get into the tracks. So, I mean, you've had a lot of time to prepare for this. Are you ready to get into these tracks?
Roll it. Let's get it over with. Now I'm just being an ass.
Yeah, well, that's funny. That's why.
We are going to give it. Yeah, we are going to give it a fair shake. We are
Yes,
going
of
to give the
course.
music a fair shake.
That being said, if you hear a groan from John within the first 10 seconds of the first song, don't be surprised. But I bet, there'll probably be some flashes of things that we'll see later, and we'll see what happens. The songwriting on this is all over the place too. We'll get to that a little bit later. So you see more of a galley and Hughes representation, obviously later, but at this point Hughes was, like I said, 18, 19 or something. So it stands to reason that he wouldn't have been maybe as involved with all that. So okay. I got to get my spreadsheet open here. So you ready to get into these tracks?
Yeah.
All right. Well, too bad, because first we have to thank our core level patrons. Coming in at the $6.66 tier, we have Richard Fusey, Steve Coldwell, and Arthur Smith. At the $6.65 almost evil tier, we have Kenny Wymore. At the $5.99 nice price tier, we have Fielding Fowler and Dr. Jill Brees. At the $5 moneylender tier, Greg Sealby, John Convery, German Heindel, Adrian Hernandez, Jesper Alman, Alexei the Perfect Stranger Slepikoff, James North, Mark Hodgetts, Kev Roberts, Will Porter, Zwapper the Electric Alchemist, and Tim Southern Cross Johnson. At the $3 Nobody's Perfect tier, we have, of course, Peter Gardot, Ian DeRosier, Mark Roback, Anton Glaving, Andrew Meyer, Duncan Leask, and Stuart McCord. Thank you to all of you for your kind, generous, and wonderful donations to the Deep Purple podcast. All right. Now, are you ready to get into this?
Yes. Roll it.
All right. Here we go. First track up is a Mel Galley solo writing credit. It's called It's Only a Dream. Starts sounding almost like a music box to start up.
Okay.
So there you go. Quick, very quick sort of intro. Definitely just sounds like an intro. Very melodically, very nice. Had some harmonies at the end there, but it kind of sounds like they're setting you up for some sort of like a concept album type sort of thing, from what it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of
so are you gonna kind of put it together with the song after it, or do we have to rate this? Because I
Well,
barely have anything to rate here, you know? I mean, it feels like.
well, I mean, I think it stands on its own. I think it's just an intro. It doesn't really have anything to do with the next song.
All right.
I gotta open my spreadsheet here.
Yeah, me too.
So it's only a dream.
Jesus, there's a lot of songs on this.
Yeah, our spreadsheet's going out of control here. It's only a dream. So yeah, so it's well, I've only got it's 12 tracks on this album, but some of them like this one are quite short. So, what say you about It's Only a Dream? Or do you want to just go to the next song and then we'll rate both of them separately? You seem uneasy about rating this one, so.
Does it go into the next one? Because it's how long was it? It was like super short.
40 seconds, 43 seconds, something like that.
I mean, I don't care. I mean, like, I don't know, give it like a, I don't know, 2.5, I guess.
2.5.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, it was like not really anything.
No, it was, yeah, I mean, and I think that's the kind of the purpose it's supposed to serve. I will actually give it a 3. I thought it was a cool little melody. I thought it worked really well. It will remain to be seen what it, how it stands up in the context of the album. And spoiler, It's Only a Dream Reprise is the last song on the album, so it's going to end probably the same way it began. I don't think they'll change it up too much. It's almost the exact same length too. So who knows? By the end, maybe you'll be wanting to give this a lower score. Maybe you want to give it a higher score. Maybe it'll be exactly the same. So, all right, let's kick it into the first proper song, a song that has gained much attention from you based on the name, because it's this one is a solo Hughes composition. Am I right on that one? Yes, a solo Hughes composition. So our first taste of one of the earliest Glenn Hughes songs, and it's called The Giant's Dead Hurrah. Here we go.
What a title.
Do I need to turn up the volume?
Yeah.
It was really quiet.
Is anything happening? Because I don't hear it. Ah, there we go.
Back down.
No, you can turn it up. That's good. Oh, it's hurrah.
Oh, hurrah, yeah. Well, I've got to say, I think John Lodge picked up a lot of production skills between that one and this one, because it does sound very nothing close to where Medusa is.
It's very echoey.
Yes.
Oh, I hate this crap.
This
Where
is
they stop and they do this melodic singing thing with the.
Yeah. This is exactly what I remember of this album. Like, I remember it just sounding like this. Unmistakable Hughes vocals.
Wow, that sounds like a 60s Ritchie solo.
Yeah. Nice little fuzzy guitar.
Yeah, really, really dated sounding.
It's designed to drive you crazy. It's exactly what you'd think a song called The Giant's Dead Hurrah sounds like.
See, the thing is that if the song was just driving ahead like the other parts and they cut this crap out, I think it would actually be better.
Yeah. But I mean, 6 months later, they would record Seaful. you know, and that's a solo Hughes composition. So just can't get over how quick that progression is.
It's too good to be true.
And this is, to me, reminds me of like the first Pink Floyd album is like this. One of those ones, it kind of, and the first Deep Purple album. It's just like, I can't believe anyone heard this and gave these bands more chances. But thank God they did.
Yeah.
But it does seem like they're going for like some sort of concept behind this album, the way that it's structured so far.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a ill-advised move for your first album, I would say. But that's it, John. We've been talking behind the scenes about that song title just because we saw the title and we're like, oh my goodness. And I gotta say, when I hearing that song, that I'm transported back to the first time hearing this album and saying, this doesn't really sound like Medusa.
Yeah.
you start off with Black Cloud on Medusa, and you start off
Yeah.
with essentially with this on this album.
With this malarkey. Well, all right. So let's start off with like, it's not terrible. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, it sounds dated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, no more dated we've established than like the first couple of Deep Purple albums. So I mean, even like the guitar solo sounded like that, you know, fuzzy 60s style solo. But I mean, the actual like playing isn't bad. I mean, you know, Hughes definitely sounds young. I mean, you know, his voice is great. I mean, I think the drumming was good during the faster parts. You know, it was kind of this like almost like this Ian Pace, the mule type of drum fills. You know, it was really busy. You know, I mean, obviously had some chops. So, and I mean, the recording wasn't bad. I mean, I don't like that production that has a lot of that echo on it. I think that's one of the things that makes it really dated sounding. And I don't like the arrangement. I think that, like, all kidding aside, if those kind of like, you know, slower, like kind of artsy concept parts or whatever you want to call them were cut out and they just went for a straight ahead, I don't even want to say a rock song because it's not really rocking, but if they just kind of kept the momentum going on the song, if it had a different arrangement, it might be better.
Yeah.
But now listening to it all these years later, I can see that that's my big problem with it is that it's like, it kind of gets going and then it stalls and then it picks up again and then it stops and it's like, all right, this isn't like pulling me in.
Yeah, it's very stilted. It's just kind of you're in between, you're stuck between gears and like driving a standard, you know, like put it into second.
Yeah, so that being said, I'll give it I'll give it a 3.
Wow.
Just because like I think if I give it any lower, like that would be me acknowledging that it sucks and it doesn't you know, I mean it's not the best, but it's not the worst either. Like, I mean, there's definitely some potential here. So
okay, fair enough. Well, I will not be as favorable. I will give this one a 2. I think it's it's just not there yet. You know, it's interesting because what's the old adage, you know, you have your whole life to write your first album and then you only have like 6 months to write your second album. This is like in reverse. Like these are granted they haven't been together for very long at this point, but maybe a year and a half, but these are all the songs that they'd really worked on. And I see what they're going for. And I think, you know, at that time that this could have really rung differently, but I'm just kind of speaking on it strictly from not looking at it as a consumer in early 1970. I'm looking at this just from now. It doesn't hold up, and I can see why I haven't really gone back to this album in a while. So that's The Giant's Dead. Hurrah or hurrah. They said hurrah.
Yeah, hurrah, the song is over. Next.
Did you put your rating in? I don't see it on the sheet.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not showing up for me.
Yours aren't showing up for me. Oh, wait, because I'm putting them in under yours. Sorry. I'm
Where are
putting
you
them in
putting them
under
in?
yours. I'm putting them under your name, not mine.
Oh.
Sorry.
Oh, so I overwrote yours. Okay.
No, I overwrote yours.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay.
So let me fix that. So you give this one a 2, right?
Yeah, I gave it a 2.
What did you give the first one? 2.5?
A 3.
3. Okay. Yeah.
Wait, no, I'm still not seeing you. Are you in the right? Are you in the master file or the?
Well, I can. Oh, a 23. No, that's really good. Yeah, I have to be because the other ones are read only.
I don't. Huh? I don't see you. I still don't see your scores. I saw your 2.5 when you put it in. Oh well, no worries. We'll figure it out. Okay.
Maybe it's taking a minute to update.
So the next track up is interestingly called the Overture, which usually would kick off most things. Oh no, wait, Over. Oh, you know what? It changed it to Overture because of Jesus Christ Superstar. Had that issue before where it changes the name of something. So it's called Over. This song is written by Jones and Galley. The song is called Over. Really weird effect on the guitar there.
Yeah.
Summer day, my mind slips away, bringing thoughts of yesterday.
Now all of a sudden the vocals sound really dry.
I
guess
think
there's
that's
a-
one of the other things that I remembered about this album that they did a lot on the first song is there's not like a lot of lead vocals. There's a lot of people singing at the same time. It's like, why isn't it just Hughes singing right now alone?
Yeah.
Like that bugs me.
Well, that was a nice little Paul McCartney sort of. Nice bass playing.
Well, that's Hughes, right?
That part was really cool. I like that little harmony that they just did. It's Hughes or Galley. They said Galley's credited with some bass on this, so. So I can see kind of this redundancy going on in the song, or it's just a little. And that's one thing I noted about the last song, which I forgot to mention, was it was 3.5 minutes, but it felt long.
Yeah.
I think because of the arrangement. I think the tone and the playing on the bass is great, whoever's playing it. I'd almost tempted to say it's Galley because it doesn't sound super Hughesy. Very McCartney.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know a lot about the Beatles, but this I could kind of pick out that this is it's trying to sound like the Beatles. Am I right?
Yes. And this part, really cool. I like that little transitioning vocal thing they do there. So it sounds like they're fading that guitar section out. Again, about the same length as the last song, about 3.5 minutes.
So I mean, I actually don't hate it. There's like things in there that I like, but there's things in there I don't like that I think that are keeping it from being great. You know what I mean? Like that's a weird guitar tone. Was that like a weird like effect on an acoustic?
I don't know. I have no idea. It was unlike anything feel like I've ever heard before. It's
Yeah,
very like
warbly.
like it's got like tremolo. It almost sounds like they're just kind of like riding a tremolo on it or something.
Yeah,
It sounds very like aquatic.
yeah. Like I mean, I know that they're probably trying to be experimental and try and grab different sounds, but yeah, I think you're right. The bass playing was really good, and like there were some good like melodies and harmonies in there. But what I really thought would make the song better is if they didn't do this whole like group vocal thing, like I don't know if you call it like a gang vocal, that's really more like
Well,
an
it's just like
80s
a big.
term, but
It's just like a big harmony vocal
yeah,
with
it's just a big
everyone singing
chorus of
yeah.
yeah. I mean, I would have rather that like Hugh, and then when Hughes, I think that was Hughes sang on his own, he had this really kind of weird, like um, I don't know what kind of effect it was, but it was just this really, it wasn't too pleasing to the ear. It was just really like heavy on the effects. It didn't seem to make a lot of sense because you had like this whole chorus of people, and then the singular vocal, and then it just kind of stopped and went bam, 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 bam. It stopped again. Song lost its momentum and then picked back up. And then, I mean, it would have maybe worked if they stopped into the guitar intro just out, but they stopped in the middle of it of the song too. So I think again, it has like some, I think it has some arrangement issues, um, and I like some production issues too. Like I don't get the whole. I'm pretty sure that's like if this whole album has that. Like I'm very confused as to why they have like just a whole chorus of people doing like the verse vocals all the time. It's kind of distracting. It almost makes the songs like sound nondescript. There's nothing for you to like grab onto, and be like, yeah, that's a strong lead vocal performance or something. Because I mean, Hughes is, I mean, I don't know if at this point, he had, that type of voice, or maybe he didn't have the confidence to
Sounded
sing
like
on
he
his
did
own.
on the previous song.
Yeah. And I mean, 6 months from now, he obviously had it, but I mean, was he not confident enough to sing like that, on his own yet? Or maybe
Well, I think it was Mel Galley singing on this one.
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
In those brief part, well, Mel Galley honestly sounds very Hughesy when he sings. Yeah, I think I agree 100% with you saying that nondescriptness of or not focusing on something is what I remember most about this album, is it just sounding kind of like floating around but not really able to get a handle on what's going on. I think I loved that little like 2 bars where they go that part was really cool, but I feel like it would have had a better impact if they hadn't been harmonizing through the verses together like you stated earlier. Yeah, it's hard to latch on to anything in that song, but yeah, that's kind of my take on it. So what do you give over?
So I'm gonna give it to 2.5, given that. I'm also going to do a Deep Purple podcast first and like rescind my 3 from the previous track and take a half a point off.
that is a Deep Purple for as the episode goes on, you're gonna be, I'm going back to that, so I'm giving it a 1.
Well, no, I thought about it a little bit after your rating, and it wasn't like, I feel like sometimes we do influence each other, but I thought about it while listening to this one, and I'm like, that first one didn't deserve a 3, just thinking about some things that I've given a 3 to. Like these are clearly like, not to my ear like developed enough.
Yep.
So 2.5.
Okay. Have you put those in the spreadsheet?
Yeah.
I still don't see them. I'm not
Well,
seeing.
maybe it'll show up. Maybe it'll show up later.
I just refreshed it. I'm still not seeing them. This is another Deep Purple podcast first. It says master at the top of the file.
Yeah, because all I got is
Huh.
I got view only, and I'm not in that one.
How could this be, people?
All
How
right.
could
How
this
about
be?
I'll close out the spreadsheet. I reopened it.
Okay.
All right, now I reopened it. Maybe that'll help on my end.
Something really weird going on. It says last edit was 9 minutes ago. And usually I see your little like cursor moving around while I'm doing it, but I don't see
Yeah,
it at all.
you too.
You don't see me either?
Nope.
My goodness, folks.
You know what's weird is like I have in my spreadsheet I have this is weird. Right above this I have In Rock and Fireball 25th anniversary, which we already rated, and they're all grayed out and there are no ratings next to them, which we did those like a while ago.
Something's wrong here, folks.
Something's funky.
Oh my goodness. Something's happening here. Let me I'm gonna send you this share. Let's see. Well, you already shared with it. I'm gonna send you a link to just make sure you're on the right or in the same one that I'm at. I'm gonna send that to you in an email while we get into the next song. So okay. So the next track up is a track called Nancy Gray, and this one I believe is another Hughes solo track, and I know this is something he's spoken of favorably before, and I think in his book maybe I was reading him talking about it. So here we go. The track is Nancy Gray. There comes the flute that we heard about.
Nancy Gray, I'm sorry, it just didn't go my way. Well, I could, it's no good.
I wonder if Nancy Gray was her real name. That's kind of like a bold move. Call somebody out with their actual name. Usually.
They'll see where we both belong.
Maybe this is who they sent the Hallmark card to.
Come what may,
Is it Mary Long?
Nancy, Nancy Gray, I'll find a way to sing once again. Nancy Gray,
I feel like there's like a lot of spots on the album where there's like almost sounds like there's dead air.
Yes.
And like I get that they're going for like these dynamics, but because of the production, you're kind of like, wait, are they still playing? Is the song still going on?
This makes me think about is like it's kind of like sounds like a Styx or a Journey song.
The Sailing Away. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
I'm Nancy Gray.
but not as catchy.
Yeah, I think it's just dynamically the album is like it's not compressed enough to a point where you can hear the quiet stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's some really cool dynamics and instrumentation going on in the song, but it's kind of lost. A great vocal, like kind of sounds like an early almost coast to coast sort of feel to it from Glenn. And before we move on, I don't think I actually gave my, because we were screwing around the spreadsheet. I don't think I gave my rating for over. I also give it a 2.5. All right.
Okay.
On to
And yes, the update that you gave me, by the way, I opened up and the sheet looks different, and now we're on the same page.
yeah, maybe
here.
maybe it's just an old version or something. Okay.
I don't know.
Nancy Gray.
I got to give this one a 2.
Okay.
I'm really disappointed. I just don't think it's a good song. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. I don't know if anybody could, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think like even like Glenn, there's nothing wrong with Glenn Hughes. Like, I definitely think like, you know, it was early on in his career. He's on, you know, not as developed, all that kind of stuff, and his songwriting, his, you know, his abilities. But I think you're right on a couple of things. Was like they're going for these dynamics, and the production just wasn't there to make those like really quiet parts kind of like be effective. You know, it just kind of fades out, and you're kind of like leaning in, like, is it over? Like, what's happening?
And it's only a
And
2.5 minute song.
yeah, but also I don't think it's a good song. You know, I mean, it doesn't have that emotion behind it. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't, it's not hitting me, you know, and you know, that's hard for like, you know, something that Glenn Hughes is on or singing to not hit me that way. And I don't think that it's, you know, because his heart wasn't in it or anything. I just don't think it was like, you know, maybe not a great take or something like that, but I found it really underwhelming.
I'm a little torn on this one because I think it is a good song. I think that the production on it is poor. The drums are a little distracting, and again, part of it is the production, because you're just hearing these kind of random cymbals coming in, being too loud, while there's other parts of the song that are being too soft. I think Glenn's vocals are great. I think I've ever heard anything Glenn Hughes has done. Glenn Hughes could fall down the stairs and it would sound better than anything I could ever sing, given my 100% effort. I think it's a good song that could have just been produced completely differently or just better. I'm gonna give it a 3 because I think it's probably the strongest song we've heard so far. I just I'm scouring YouTube. I know I've heard Glenn Hughes talk about. It just keeps changing my search to Macy Gray. Glenn.
Like like I feel like if I heard, like when I was listening to the song, one thing that I thought of is like if like I heard an updated version of it, you know, like, you know what I mean? Like if Hughes was doing it like years later or now, and it was like, you know, him and an acoustic guitar doing like a good updated version of it, where we could like, you know, you could hear it more developed, would it be a better song?
I think
You
for
know?
sure. I know that, like I said, I don't know if it's an interview or what, if I've heard him play it more recently. I'm coming up kind of empty on YouTube, but maybe we'll look later and see if we can find something more updated, because I feel like there's a lot of potential there that's just untapped.
Well, and be that as it may, I mean, you know, I'm rating what I am listening to,
Right.
not what the potential song could be.
Right.
So
Yeah, and I mean, I guess I am doing a little bit of that, but I guess it just depends on how you feel about a particular song. So
sure,
I think there's something there. But
and you could totally do that. I'm not.
So the next track we have, let me just pull up this I want to make sure I get this songs correct here.
Okay.
So this is what we're going to listen to now is going to be the end of side 1.
Oh. Oh wow, really?
Okay, 1 second.
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah.
Okay. So the next track is a combination. Well, it's one of those classic things where it's listed as 3 different sections on the album, but it's one track on the actual CD.
And this is the end of side one.
And this is the
You
end
said?
of side one, which concludes with fairy tale, verily, verily. Which I know
Oh, oh my God.
I knew that was the look I was gonna get. So it concludes with a fairy tale, verily, verily, and then fairy tale again. So we're in for a wild ride.
Yes, we're in for some kind of ride.
This sounds like it could be like a Blackmore's Night sort of situation we're diving into here. So here we go with we'll kick it off with fairy tale, verily, verily, and then fairy tale. I know this sounds like it could be on something a little more upbeat. This is written by Jones and Galley again. That's nice. I like that. The first vocals were a little weird though.
They're mixed really low too.
Yeah, the production's just kind of a mess, to be honest. That is, I think, the first snapshot of Medusa era trapeze.
Correct.
It's great. I love that little snippet. The organ sounds terrible though. It's very wimpy sounding. It sounds like a church organ, not a rock organ.
Exactly.
Ah, nice.
What the hell is going on here?
Just like a fairy tale, John. So this is the end of the fairy tale section. Now we're going into verily, verily.
Okay.
I almost feel like these all need to be rated separately, but I mean, it's so quiet. Even the piano playing by itself in headphones, I could barely hear it. Now everything sounds a little more lush that the guitars come in. You might want to watch the video of this one, folks, for John's facial reactions. It's kind of a nice little harmony when he goes into that little minor section at the end. Really tempted to listen to that first Pink Floyd album again because it's probably been even longer since I've listened to that, and it's very similar to this, where it's just like I can't reconcile in my head how they got from that album to the album after that. It's the same sort of thing here. Aside from that little flash we just got in the fairy tale part, I'm hearing nothing of the trapeze from 6 months later.
See, You see, the problem with this is it's not going anywhere.
Right, yeah, it's very...
It's verily boring. I think a lot of the problem too is like the production, as we've been talking about.
Yeah. The
'Cause
production
these
is...
vocals are just like way back.
if you think we're picking on John Lodge, like, go back and listen to our Medusa episode. We never stopped talking about how great we thought the production was, but the production on this is terrible. And you know, maybe it's like you said, this may have been the first thing he ever produced. So, but I can't imagine how he could have gotten that much better in 6 months. And those are just the release dates. I don't know when they were recorded.
Well, what pressing are we listening to here? Are we listening to like the CD version from...
This is the most recent remastered version. So this is presumably as good as it gets. It's from this 2
All
CD
right, so
set.
it's no, like we're listening to like this garbage old...
No, 20. It's
version.
from last year, 2020.
Jeez.
Oh, I see what they did. So they faded out that little jazz break. Now they're fading it back in. Now we're going back into the organ sort of thing. This is you know, I'm always a big fan of like interesting arrangements. Ah, some good Hughesy. Or was that Galley? That might have been
I think
Galley.
it was Galley at the beginning, and then Hughes coming in.
Yeah. Listen to that organ. It sounds so wimpy.
Yeah. The only thing that has any balls in this song is the vocals.
It reminds me of recordings that I've done when I was younger. And like, I was like, well, this is the best organ patch I have, so I'm just going to use it. It sounded like crap. This is what this is what reminds me of.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness. I think like they brought in like some old lady named Evelyn to do the organ, who, you know, she plays on Sundays at church.
There it is, almost 8 minutes on that track. Wow. With all of that stuff going on. But that's Fairy Tale, verily back into Fairy Tale. All right, let's not beat around the bush. John, what do you think of what we just listened to, whatever you want to call it? I can't say it all again. What do you think of that?
That was a disaster. Like, I don't know what that was. Like, I mean, yeah, like you said, I'm a fan of a good, interesting arrangement. But I mean, this was just kind of like, I don't know, like, you know what I mean? It's like that part of the song should have just been the whole song. It should have been separate, and the whole jazz thing or whatever, lounge act type thing, like fading out and then leading into the ballad part, which went nowhere, made no sense to me.
I mean, there were a lot of cool ideas there.
Yeah,
but it was stitched together in such a way that it was just,
right.
Yeah.
Yes,
like,
I think that's the best way
when it went to that jazz part, I thought, oh, this is really cool. And
yeah, but because I mean, we've heard things like that, like on like the like John Lord, like projects.
Wizards. It was like kind of reminded me of Wizards Convention a little bit.
Right, like John Lord, Eddie Hardin, who's the other guy? Tony Ashton, like, you
Yeah.
know, those like kind of side projects, like, you know, we're used to all that kind of stuff, you know, that different kind of stuff, but it wasn't well done here, you know. It was like you, yeah, I think you put it best. It sounded like really kind of stitched together, like, here, we have like these 2 or 3 ideas. So let's just like throw them all together and yeah, there you
And
go.
maybe,
Have a nice day, you lucky so-and-so.
maybe this is something where a more seasoned producer would have been able to channel that creativity in a different direction.
Sure.
Because like the idea of it is cool, the execution was poor. And if they said, you know, oh, well, maybe this is a way we could work in that concept, and maybe this part doesn't need to be 3.5 minutes long or whatever, however long it is. So
Right.
um,
And so if the first and the last parts, which what were they called again? Were those called fairy tale?
fairy tale, yeah,
The heavier part.
yeah.
If the production was better, the organ was like John Lord, like Hammond heavy, you know, um, and like, you know, with the vocals already, you know, being, you know, pretty strong, you know, because like you said, you heard those kind of like, you know, quick flashes of later Hughes in there, which he obviously, you know, proved that he was already there vocally, then maybe it would have been better. But you know, ugh, you know, as a whole, no bueno. I
So
did not verily enjoy that. I'll give it a 2.5 only because I did like those kind of like 2 bookends like a little bit for what they were,
mhm.
you know, a little bit heavier, but so disappointing to hear that really just kind of like soulless, like kind of like cheap organ in there. Was like, oh God, it was like the least rock and roll organ you could have.
Yeah, I mean, not that it has to be rock and roll, but it didn't fit
Mm.
with what they were going for. I mean, it could have been.
Mm.
And I think on that beginning part where it comes to do 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 do, he's playing that little counterpoint thing. I think it was fine, but when the whole band kind of kicked in, it was clear they were trying to do something a little more rock and heavy.
Mm-hmm.
The organ tone was just kind of lost there. I'm a little torn on this one because, like you said, I think it's kind of a mess. Um, but I really loved that, you know, you're at a Christian crucifixion when he started like really uh getting into it. That little flash of later trapeze was really exciting. I was like, wow, this is that was like the kernel of something they could have used to make this into something different. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It was likely the 60s when this was being conceived. I'm torn, but I'm gonna give it a I'm gonna give it a 2. I gotta go with my gut. Um, but I do like those little flashes, and I think Galley and Hughes' singing is great on it. But it's yeah, it's a little bit of a jumbled mess.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, it is time to flip this album over onto side 2. And what are they doing? A cover of a Billy Joel song? It's My Life. No, this is an original. It's called "It's My Life." Start the second side, and this one is written. Wait a second.
I stand with open hand in mine. I stand upon the brink of greater things. I hope I'll find maybe of another kind.
And this one is a Jones and Galley song.
I stand with open hand in mine.
Everything just sounds so soft.
Eyes can see no wrong. In you I'm being left behind. And will I ever be so blind?
Yeah, I just don't think I like the songs. Like, this isn't what I want to hear Glenn Hughes doing.
kind of like 19-year-old, I'm gonna do whatever I want sort of song.
Get out of my way.
Get out of my way. I'm taking the bull by the horns. I'm gonna do whatever I please. I'm 19. I got it all figured out.
And never rose again. I see my future embroidered on the rain.
I see the future embroidered on the rain.
I kind of like the chorus. It's got a little bit of a hook to it.
Some more really McCartney-esque bass going on there. I think the bass playing on this album is maybe, and some of those fuzzy guitar solos are kind of the highlights for me so far.
I mean, if this is like the, God, man, if this is like the remaster, like they wonder if like a remix would have been.
I mean, there's only so much you can do though. If it doesn't have the punch to begin with, there's only so if you record somebody from across the room with a microphone, there's only so much you can do in a remaster to make that sound up close or more in your face, or you know, and it could simple things like that, like microphone placement and EQ and stuff. Well, EQ you can even recover from a little bit more.
Well, I mean, even this, you know, I mean, it's like the whole, you know, you could barely hear the drums, and it's like, you know, it's like the whole, like this song, like I was kind of like, you know, it's like you're squinting and like leaning toward the speakers, being like, I think I can hear this, you know, but it's,
if they bounced tracks down, like say they had the drums and the guitar on the same track, and they bounced that down in 1970, there's no recovering from that. You can't really, and if the drums sounded far from that, there's not much you can do. So, you know, it's not like they had any, I'm sure there were no slouches involved in remastering this. It's just, like I said, fixing it in post only works to a certain extent. But all right, it's your life, John. You only have one life to live. Your future's embroidered on the rain. How are you gonna rate this one?
I'll give it a 2.5. Because it's my life. And I'll rate the way I want to do it.
And now you or anybody else is going to tell me how to rate this song.
Get out of my way.
Listen, I've been alive for 19 long years. I've seen a few things.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think just like they're like, the only reason I even give it a 0.5 is because like I thought that the chorus actually had like some kind of redeeming quality. It was kind of melodic, but overall I think the production was like not great. And I mean, you know, I'm probably going to be repeating myself through the whole thing, because I can't imagine there's going to be another song on this where the production is better. But you know, it's I just don't really think that the songs are quite there yet either. You know, they're too mellow for me. You know,
a lot of down tempo stuff. The only ones that fairy tale bit is the only time where I felt like it really kind of picked up.
Yeah, and I mean, if that's the kind of music that they were going for at the time, you know, this kind of like, you know, slow ballady, you know, kind of like introspective sounding stuff, then it's like, okay, but you know, that doesn't win me over. You know, I'd much rather hear like, you know, something with like, you know, something with like, you know, some balls behind it, you know, like Seaful.
Or Black Cloud or Jury or something like that. Yeah.
Right. But if you're talking like a slow song, you know, like, I mean, that was like well produced. You could hear everything like nice and clear. It was like melodic, like, you know, passionate. You know, it had dynamics to it. But, you know, this, it's just very like, just very wimpy.
Yep. All right. I will, I'm going to give this one a 2 again. I think it's, yeah, I don't think I was as hooked into that chorus as you were. Again, I mean, I would love to hear a reimagining of a lot of I think I think that the area where I disagree with you on is I think there is some stuff in the songs here. I'm not saying that they're all fantastic, but I think with a reimagining of some of these songs and just kind of a rearrangement and a remix, obviously, I could easily see giving some of these songs 3.5s, over 2s and 2.5s. But obviously we don't see that vision. And again, let's be clear, this is their first album. It was a long time ago, over 50 years ago. So and we love the following 2 albums. So it's you don't want to sound like we're just piling on. We try to always come at this show with with a positive spin on things. But yeah, we have to just kind of talk about what our feelings are on this album. And now I'm starting to very easily be reminded of why this has not been a go-to for me. Okay, the next track up is another Hughes solo composition. This one is called Am I? John, this sounds like Blackmore's Night.
Yep.
Is that Ritchie on lute?
I think to myself, it's only a dream.
Oh, this song I really remember.
That brings me here. What did I do to deserve the place that I'm in? Did I sin? It's so dark down here, I can't see a thing. I'm so stiff, so numb.
Has he done this on another album? Because I can hear like this different in my mind.
My legs, my hands, my body.
I don't think so.
Cold. Am I old?
That sounds really familiar to me. He's probably done it on one of his solo albums, and I just can't put my finger on it or something. And the problem is it's impossible to Google "Am I" and find anything.
Oh, look, like 10 billion results.
Exactly.
They laugh at each other and wallow about in the slime, the depths of forgotten, meaningless rhymes.
It might just be the kind of that it sounds like something Beatles-ish. Maybe that's what I'm linking it to in my mind.
So, the music in this is not bad, and the sound isn't bad, but I think that the vocals, like the way that they're recorded, suck. Like, I feel like it would have been better if it was just a dry vocal, like more up front, and not with all that friggin' like reverb on it.
Yeah, everything is so saturated on this album.
And I assume that this is not Hughes singing. I don't think it.
No, I think that's Hughes. Sounds like Hughes to me, but he's really low in his register.
It's kind of a haunting tune,
Yeah, it's kind of definitely interesting.
But again, I think that if they see this one, it's just I think it was a simple question of like the vocals. Like if they had done something else with it, because I thought that was kind of a cool thing. I mean, you could hear the guitar doing its thing and the bass, You know, it had this kind of like haunting melody to it, but it's like the whole saturated and reverb vocals thing, it just kind of gives this whole album like this really just dated quality that I dislike.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it just makes it sound almost like just turns me off, you know, like instantly when I hear it, I just like my brain turns off. I'm like, oh, all right, another one that I can't really relate to, or you know what I mean? It's keeping me from relating to it, you know, because it's like
Yeah.
the vocal performances aren't like I don't think that they got the best, you know, and we know that these guys aren't bad vocalists or musicians, so
No, far from it. Well, what's one of the things that we talked about repeatedly on the Medusa episode was like how dry the production was.
mhm.
And that's, I mean, dry sounds bad, right? But like, but I always love the dryness of those drums, and these drums are pretty dry in this too. But the dryness
Yeah,
of
but
the
they have
drums,
more
and
punch.
even Glenn Hughes's vocals. I mean, and Medusa, I think they went in the opposite direction too far. Like it's almost too dry in spots. But I think being too dry versus too saturated like this is much preferable, because you lose so
Well,
much when there's just so much. And I made that mistake too. I remember early recordings putting so much reverb on things that you're just like, what is even going on? Like everything sounds kind of far off and distant and garbled, because
right,
you're
it
just,
muddles it.
yeah. And sometimes it's because like, oh, I don't like my playing on this, I don't like my singing on this, I'll just crank up the reverb, it'll make it more
Right.
palatable or easy to deal with, and the end result ends up being kind of disastrous sometimes.
But I mean, a dry production is like, I mean, yeah, you could take that as a you know, as a negative, but I don't think it is, because like two albums I can think of that have that really kind of dry, snappy kind of production would be Medusa. And another one that's non-Deep Purple related is like that people always talk about the production on that one too is Dress to Kill by Kiss. Has the same thing. It's just like, you know, not a ton of effects, just very straightforward. But I mean, when done well, then, you know, you kind of get that impression of like, oh, I'm sitting like right there listening to the band play. Almost like it has like this live feel to it. And, you know, that can be a good thing when done right. And, you know, maybe that like that would, I think that would have served a song, say like this, like really well, you know?
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
But I mean, you know, as it is, you know, like you said, it's just the vocals are just like drenched in reverb, and it's just kind of like, you know, stinkeroo.
All right. So what do you rank Am I?
Am I going to give it a 2.5? Yes. And I will, just because, like I said, I don't think it's like this one. I don't think is a bad song. It's just like, you know, not recorded well.
Am I gonna give it a 2.5? Also, yes. I really like that. I think that's really good. I think this is a song that has some real potential that was just, like so many other songs, just kind of poorly produced. Okay, the next song up is we're talking about how downbeat all these songs are. The next song is called Suicide. So there you go. Another cheerful track off of this album.
This
Suicide.
is the anthem.
This one is written by Jones and Galley. Suicide. And this is a bit of a longer track, almost 5 minutes.
I just hope this doesn't make me want to commit suicide.
I'm hoping not. I remember this one. You get that really discordant organ in the background. Yes. This one I feel like I've heard recently. You know what? I think we may have played this on our Glenn Hughes episode.
Yeah?
If not, I might have listened to it in preparation for that. doing like that squealing sort of organ. This sounds like a rock organ.
Yeah.
I really like that. I love this part and that juxtaposition between that kind of rocking part and this. I think is very interesting. That's that Galley singing that lead part?
You know, I'm really not hating this one. I like this. It's kind of got something going for it.
Really McCartney-esque sound on that bass on this one. I wonder if he's using a Rickenbacker because it sounds like, although I don't think he did before Deep Purple. This reminds me of something you'd hear from like the Rolling Stones. This part, not the later part. Faint, almost sounds like a chorus in the background here. I kind of like the image they're painting, this kind of demented sort of
Really frantic, frenzied.
Yeah, it's like almost uncomfortable.
What are they building to?
Hopefully not the title of the song. A little atmospheric sort of end part here. Everyone's just moving up kind of independent of each other.
Wow.
Surprising, abrupt ending there.
Yeah, well, no, surprised that one was actually pretty good.
Yeah, I dug that one. What are you going to rank it?
I give that one a 3.5.
All right.
Highest rating so far. That one definitely had something going for it. Like it was catchy, and it was the what was it? It was like three verse choruses, and then it just kind of went into that
Something like that, yeah.
frenzied, like, organ build up thing, which I thought was pretty cool, because I thought it was going to build up to like a solo or to like it going back to the chorus or something, and instead it just pulled back, and then it went back and built up again, and then the song ended. So that was actually sounded like it was a little more fully realized, more than anything on the album. And I like the melodies, yeah, I thought it was good. It was probably my favorite song on the album so far.
Yeah, you've got these like she dropped you, she flew away. You realize there's only one way. They do that 3 parts, and then the last time they do it, it goes into that frenzied, discordant part for almost a minute and a half, and then it ends with the snare hit, and that makes you wonder: is that it? Is that the end? Is that the jumping off a bridge, or is that the gunshot, or is that whatever it is that ended it? Is that what happened in this situation? I don't know, but it definitely kind of takes you on a it kind of makes me uncomfortable, but at the same time, just I like the atmosphere that they're painting with it. So I'm gonna shock the world and give this one a 4.
Oh,
I
did shock the world.
The world is shocked. I really dig this one, and for some reason, this one really. The second I heard those vocal harmonies, I remembered it very, very vividly, and so that other than "Send Me No More Letters," which I know pretty well because that's one of their probably big early hits. This is the one that just kind of that really sticks in my mind from this album for some reason. So, all right, next track up is a track called Wings. Now that's some close-up guitar. This one's by Hughes and Rowley. A little cowbell there. Is that Rod? Did Rod come in for this one? Nice little groove. I could see this from a later Medusa. This songwriting wise reminds me of a Medusa.
Yeah, this is
it could be on Medusa.
A little more straightforward.
A nice riff, good vocals by those early raw Glenn vocals, a little cowbell. It's got all those hallmarks. Again, a very Beatles-esque sort of playing on the guitar there, going into the chorus. Sounds like almost like a paperback writer chorus sort of thing. She came back to my surprise. That hung up look was in her eyes. I looked at her, she looked at me. The only place that we could be together. This part reminds me of like a Flight of the Conchords song, the way he was doing that. It's almost like his vocals are almost distorting there now. Goes from too quiet to sounding like they're distorting. Oh wow, doing a little delay there at the very end. Wings. Red Bull has wings.
Ah,
Or gives you wings, or whatever the heck whatever that 20-year-old advertising campaign is. Do they still do that? Who knows?
I don't know.
Red Bull has wings.
I don't know. Does anybody even drink Red Bull anymore?
No, it's all about the Monster Energy drink.
Oh, you remember Red Bull and vodka? It's like, yeah, let me have a drink that'll like get me fucked up, but I'll like be able to still carry on through the night.
I'm gonna be so drunk I'm gonna pass out, but yet I'm still gonna be awake.
I'm gonna
It
be
sounds like
blacked.
a recipe for disaster.
I'm gonna be blacked out, but my body will soldier on without my brain being aware of anything. That's exactly what I need tonight.
And hopefully I won't commit too many crimes while I'm in that state. Or the crimes that I commit will not be felonies. All right, what do you think about Wings, John?
I heard a lot of potential here, but not enough to give it any more than a 2.
A 2? Oof. Ouch.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't like a nasty 2. This isn't like a I hate you 2.
This is a 2 with the kindest of intentions.
Yeah, it's not, I don't know. I feel like there's a song like this is just like, okay, like, Glenn Hughes just isn't developed enough as a performer, a songwriter. And I'm saying that with like the full knowledge of knowing that like 6 months from now, we're going to get this like powerhouse of an album. So I don't even know how this is a thing. But I mean, you know what? 6 months is a long time,
Yep.
Especially
when you're 19.
Yeah. So think about it, right? I mean, like, the advances that you could make, in so many things, your talent, your attitude, like your knowledge, like say from January, February to like where we are now, for instance, right? I mean, if you think back, it's just like, yeah, that seems like a while ago, and all the stuff that happened from now to then. I mean, it's totally possible. Yeah. But I would say at this point, it was not there yet. And again, I'm going to have to blame the producer, the engineer, whoever, as well for, not getting a better take, not, producing it as well. I just think it was kind of a storm of all those things.
Fair enough. I will give this one a 3. I'm hearing the early Medusa era trapeze stuff. It's got the weird stuff like she came back to my surprise, I hung up, look was in her eyes. Like they wouldn't have done that in like on Medusa, but that whole like wings carry me away, like that whole thing was really cool. And the verse I think was pretty good, and had kind of an interesting little kind of guitar hook there. So I mean, I think there was a lot of potential there. I think it was good, solid, decent song, or early glimpse of what Trapeze was about to become. Okay, only a few more songs left on the second side here. Let's power through them. First up is a song, which is a song called "Another Day," which is a song by our friend Scott, Dan, and Jay's band had a song called, I think every band has a song called "Another Day." That was like the first song that they ever did, was called "Another Day." Let's see if it's better, if this "Another Day" is better or worse than their "Another Day." So here we go. Nice organ and guitar work, really nice right here.
Do you feel like putting everything out till tomorrow?
Now you get that like Styx vibe going on strong. Kilroy. The production on this is great though. This is, vocals are up front. This is the best sounding song yet, in my opinion. I know you aren't crazy about this vocal style and songwriting or whatever, but this to me is easily the best sounding thing we've heard so far.
I mean, I'll agree with that. I wonder if they just slapped the songs on this album from the order in which they recorded them in. As they were going along, they were getting like better at figuring out how to turn the knobs and the faders and shit.
Could be.
Because I agree, this is definitely better sounding.
I wish if every song on this album sounded this good, it'd be in a different place. I like that. Boom. That little what the organ's doing right there.
Change and rearrange your conscious living. Find another day. Another day. Sunshine on our problem. Another day. Troubles rising through another troubles rising through another troubles rising through another
I can't get over how much better that sounded than anything else we've heard so far.
Yeah, what the
I mean, songwriting and everything aside, not even paying. I was mostly not even paying attention to that because I was just like, what? Where was this production on the rest of the album?
exactly.
I mean, sometimes they did have a situation where they're like, they put all their money into one song because they thought it was going to be a single or whatever, and you'd hear a vast discrepancy because of that. That could very well be with what's going on here. They said, this is going to be the one, this is going to be the radio hit, let's really make sure it, but then it kind of leads you to believe like what monetarily was holding you back from making other things sound better.
Right.
But anyway, that's another day. What do you rank it?
I'll give it a 3. Just like not based alone on the fact that it was the best sounding song so far on the album. We got 2 tracks left, but yeah, not I was like, I kind of rolled my eyes when I heard the kind of
You didn't roll your eyes, you did roll your eyes.
All right, I totally rolled my eyes.
Totally.
When I heard the you know what, it's just like this kind of like angelic hippie chorus vocals. Like that's the best way I can describe them.
I think that's a great description.
But for some reason on this track, maybe it's because it wasn't like washed in reverb and it wasn't like felt like it was like all the way in the background. It kind of fit in more with this song. And I mean, it was pleasant to listen to. Even though just like most of the other songs, it didn't really kind of go anywhere. Like, it had some nice, harmonies in it. It had, it had a nice melody to it. So it was all right. One of the better ones.
Yeah. I mean, I think if we were comparing this song to the other songs on the album, I'd have to give it a 5 based on how it sounds, but I am also going to give it a 3. I agree with everything you said. It just sounds, I mean, it just sounds professional. It sounds like this is what you would expect a professional band to be putting out around this time period. Sounds great. I think it's a decent song. It's the performances are good. And I think for the first time you really get to hear what they were capable of with these performances. It doesn't sound muddy. It doesn't sound like you're listening to it from across the room. It sounds like you're right there with them. So 3 from me as well. Which leads us, speaking to single, we're talking about this being released as a single. Then the next track is Send Me No More Letters, which was I guess the big early Trapeze song. Interesting placement to being the essentially last song on the album. So here we go. This track is Send Me No More Letters. Instantly same production as Another Day.
It's your smile, all the while, keeps me dreaming of today.
And this is written by Hughes, Jones, and Galley. I'm sorry, just Rowley solo.
Summer flies, winter comes and slips away. In my grave, velvet
They must have had a radio edit because this is 4.5 minutes long. Yeah, there's a single version on disc too, so it's got to be shorter.
It's a nice chorus.
Yeah, this is a class. This is probably, apart from Suicide, this is one that I have heard since last listening to this. Comes up occasionally on things. The vocals sound great. I guess this must be Mel Galley singing this part.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah, that doesn't sound like Glenn.
I think they released this and Another Day as a A-side, B-side single. You look it up. Which again would explain why they sound noticeably better than the other songs. Yep, this was the A-side, Another Day, the B-side. Imagine if the whole album sounded like this. I'm not saying it would be like, oh yeah, it's a go-to now, I'm listening to it every day, but man, the rest of the album is neglected. They save it for the last two songs on the second side.
Yeah, those are like night and day.
Produced by a completely different person. Like I said, I've heard this song more recently, but what I haven't heard is it in context with the rest of the album. I think that's why it's so striking listening to it now.
Yeah.
Wow, there you have it. There's the fade out, and obviously the single version would have been a little shorter, I'm sure, by about a minute and a half, but
yeah, I feel like that was a right call, having a single like that could have been shorter. I think it would have been more effective if it were shorter.
Yeah, it's a little long, but especially coming this late in the album. I mean, this is for an album of the time. This is long. It's like 40,
a lot of stuff,
40 minutes long or something.
Yeah,
which so a lot of albums at the time are clocking in at like 30 minutes or something, 35 minutes. So. What do you say about Send Me No More Letters?
I'll send them no more threes, because that's what it's getting from me. I think that's the highest anything on this is going to get from me, because it's like definitely, I mean, the past couple of songs, the production's just been way better. Like, I feel like I'm listening to a different album now.
It's like it feels like you're coming out of a fog. You're just like, oh, finally we can like listen to something that like everything about the production is better. I will. Yeah,
this is a good song.
I will mirror your three. I think this is a solid late 60s, early 70s. I think this single was released in 69, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. Yeah, it says it was released in 69, so would have been a few months ahead of the album. But yeah, just kind of like, why? I mean, I guess, who knows? The financials were probably made a little bit more sense back then, but it's just crazy to make the rest of the album not sound as good as those two.
Right.
So anyway, yeah, definitely gets a 3 from me. And with that, it's just on to the last song, which is a reprise of the first song. So I'm assuming it's going to be something pretty similar. It's Only a Dream reprise. Let's take a listen. So far, it sounds exactly the same. Even just the overall volume. If I drag these into a if I drag these files into my digital audio program here, you'd probably just be able to see how much quieter they are. And that's it. I mean, that could be the exact same one as before, and I wouldn't really be able to tell the difference.
No, I think it is. Kind of a, I don't know, not a great way to end the album. I give it a 2.5, just like the other one.
Yeah, I'll give it a 3, just like the other one. I like the melody of it, and I think I always think it's cool to do like a reprise like that. I'm a sucker for stuff like that, so I get it. But it seems a little forced. Like, I also don't think they needed. I don't know what it would be like opening with the Giants Dead Hurrah, but I like the melody of that song. I think it's really cool, but that's it. That is our full review of Trapeze's first album. And John, how does Trapeze, the debut album, stack up in our list of 119 episodes worth of album reviews? Not all of them album reviews, but
Let's see. So, let's see. I'm just gonna.
looks like we got about 65 albums in there right now.
Wow. All right. So, Trapeze ranks as one of the lowest.
Not surprising.
5.33 combined ratings. Not too much of a variance. I liked it less than you. So yeah, if we're ranking it here, it's like almost at the bottom. You have the complete episode 6, Warhorse, Trapeze, Shades of Deep Purple.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's fair.
Yeah, that's where I feel it belongs overall.
Yeah, that is not a shocking spot for it to be.
Yeah. Actually, like just looking at the worksheet, I don't even see another Trapeze album like in the view like right now. I have to go like way up
to
like find it.
I'm going to okay. Yeah, no, the next one is You Are the Music, where just the band gets an 8.06.
Yeah.
Up from what 5.33 you said?
Right. And
then Medusa's above that,
probably
by
much
a
higher, bit. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I'm just really like, I think that this is it sounded like what it was a younger band, maybe similar to the first Zephyr album, didn't really have a lot of songwriting skills, arranging skills, suffered from poor production.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe their direction was unclear because the last couple of songs were really, they didn't blow me away, but they were a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking I was leaning towards you having a stronger rating of it than me when we were in the first side of the album. I mean, we were still pretty close, but that second half of the album really, really picked it up a bit, especially towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an interesting choice to put all your strongest material at the very end of the album. But
yeah, very different. What do they call it? Bottom heavy,
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's I mean, I think a taste of early Trapeze, early Glenn Hughes. Obviously, he got immeasurably better, very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, luckily we didn't have too much of this kind of material from him.
Nope, not at all. And there you have it, folks. Let us know on social media or wherever you prefer what you think of this album, where we're off base, or where if we got it right, or what you think. I'd be interested to hear what everyone else's takes on this, because you hear a lot about the other two uh, early Hughes Trapeze albums, but this one doesn't get mentioned very often. You can kind of understand why. So, yeah, that's it. And before we close it out, I just have to thank our foundation level patrons coming in at the $1 made up name tier: L's Murders, Spacey Noodles, The Untightened Leaky Mausoleum, Michael Vader, Stephen Somerville, the Concerto 1999 fanatic, Raf Calf, Spike the Rock Cat, who is on his way to see Glenn Hughes, I heard, JJ Stenard, Hank the Tank, and Flight of the Rat Bat Blue Light. Thank you to all of you for your amazing, incredible, continued support of the Deep Purple podcast. So before we wrap up today, just a few quick things. This album was released in May of 1970. As I said, in November, Medusa came out. So we covered that in episode 40. Scroll all the way back in your podcatcher to episode 40 if you want to hear our review of the next Trapeze album. This lineup was together only for 18 months. Hughes says he remembers this album very fondly, the vocal harmonies and arrangements. And from the notes from the 1994 CD release by John Tracy, where is it? Oh, I just had it. So concerts were booked by the quintet to include Belgium, Britain, and the Netherlands, and also America. But soon after the long players unveiling, Jones and Rowley decided to return to Montana territory, where their futures might be best served. That group's affiliation with the mainstream and the cabaret circuits being somewhat closer to the hearts than the heavy rock direction their erstwhile colleagues wished to pursue as Trapeze. And so it came to be. The split was amicable, and Trapeze would never sound the same again. A hard-rocking power trio par excellence would announce itself in November with the appearance of an album stickered Medusa. And that's where they left it. And yeah, they did stay close. Terry Rowley, I know, played on Play Me Out, and he played on later Trapeze releases and after Hughes left, and I think even after Hughes came back again. So yeah, I guess they just didn't want to go in that hard rock direction, and it sounds like it was best for everyone involved. And we got some great Trapeze albums to show for it after that. So there you go. That's Trapeze. It is done, John. It's over. We're free.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine though, like that coming out like a couple of months ago, and then like by this November getting Medusa, like, and just being like, what is going on with this band?
Well, it's like we talked about with
you know what I mean?
It's like we talked about with Deep Purple. I mean, you get the Deep Purple self-titled album and you're like, oh, I really like what they're doing. And then they release In Rock and you're like, what the hell is this? It's not, you can imagine somebody at the time who really dug this album or really dug the early Deep Purple being like, this isn't what Trapeze is. This isn't what Deep Purple is. And kind of saying, screw them. I'm not listening to them anymore. Obviously, in the long run, it turned out to be way better for both bands and they got a huge amount of success and fame from it. But yeah, it's almost like it had to have been just a total shock. It wasn't. Yeah. It was still it was only a year's difference, I think, between Deep Purple and In Rock. But,
right. Probably, yeah.
It'd be pretty shocking.
But yeah, like you said, it's over.
It's over. It's like Peter Paul and Mary, and then like their next album, Rust in Peace. Like what's going on? I really thought I knew what they were going. I thought I knew what they were all about, but apparently I had no idea.
Well. All right. Well, I guess that's
sir.
it, huh?
That's it. That's it for us, folks. We will see you next week with another action-packed episode, talking about your favorites from the cloud that surrounds the great band Deep Purple. Thank you, folks. We'll talk to you next week.
Send me no more letters.
Send John no more letters. He's full up on letters. Good night, my friend.
I'll see you another day. I'll see you another day.
All right. Later.
Thank you for listening to the Deep Purple Podcast. If you like what you hear and would like more episodes in the future, please donate on Patreon to support the show. You can also leave us a review in Apple Podcasts to help new people discover the show. You can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook for show updates. See deeppurplepodcast.com for more details. Thank you for listening.